Good morning. Welcome back to the Red Mic. Happy Monday. I'm glad you're here. These Red Mic messages are leadership and life lessons I picked up from 25 years as a public servant, 16 years as a youth football coach and scouting volunteer, and 10 years as a mediocre athlete with far more heart than actual physical ability. Today's Red Mic message: leading like a lineman, leading sideways. In all of my leadership roles, I inevitably end up saying, I don't care if I'm the one steering. I don't care if you need me to grab an oar. I'm just going to jump in. You know, particularly when I was the executive director at a state agency. More often than not, I felt like I had a couple of roles. I was usually steering, or I would make reference to the fact that I was the goalie. My job was to grab the puck, put it back in play, make sure it didn't get past me, stuff like that. Of course, sports metaphors, it's what I do. But I would also say, hey, if you need me to grab an oar, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to steer, right? So said all that to say this, I've held the titles. I've, had the rank on my arm. Real leadership, though, doesn't need a nameplate. Some great leaders that I can remember throughout my career, they weren't necessarily the boss. They didn't sit at the head of the table. They weren't in the exec meetings. They didn't help create your strat plan and stuff like that. They led from the middle. They led sideways. You know, um, Leading sideways means you don't wait for a promotion to set the tone. You guide your peers, you lift your team, you do the right thing without needing credit because it's not about pulling rank, it's about stepping up. It means calming the temperature in the room when things get heated. It's picking up that drop ball instead of saying, well, it's not my ball. It's not my job. It's like being a lineman. Linemen, the only time really that you notice a lineman, frankly, is when they don't do their job. The best linemen are just solid. They're there. They don't get penalties. They don't miss their man. They make their blocks. And it's hard being the unrecognized, the unheralded. Yeah, the running back gets the accolades. They get the touchdowns. They get their picture in the paper. They're the one, the receivers when they make that catch, they're the ones that their opponent is posterized. The picture of the famous, the one that broke my heart and still breaks my heart. The Dwight Clark making the catch over Everson Walls. Um, but without the lineman protecting that quarterback to throw that ball, it doesn't happen. It's doing the job even when seemingly it's like no one's watching. And again, it goes unnoticed. You might help shape an idea in your office, in your business, whatever it is, and you might not get the credit. You might carry the load and still get passed over. But if you're leading the team without ego and with heart, you're still winning. You're making the team better. Um, I'm going to age myself here now. There was a show on. It was one of the Sid and Marty Krofft Saturday morning live action. I called them a live action cartoon at the time. That's not accurate because there were no animations, but basically they were cartoon-ish characters but doing live action stuff. And the one I wanted to talk about was a show called Wonderbug. This show featured an old, just torn up dune buggy. In fact, they even called it the Schlepp Mobile. And when it was non-super, it made noise, made noises like that. And uh, there were three characters. You had Barry, who was the lead guy. I can't remember the other two characters' names, unfortunately. Well, Barry was an idiot. And he had a sidekick who pretty much loved everything Barry did or said. And then you had a lady who was with him who, for the life of me, I could never figure out why she was around. She was the smart one of the trio. And they would do, mystery machine type stuff and investigative roles and stuff like that. And they'd go find the bad guys. And she was the one that always had the good ideas. And they'd be sitting there trying to figure out what they were going to do. And she'd say, well, hey, what about this? And she would lay out a pretty, reasonable idea or plan. And Barry would go, no, 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 that won't work. And then he would think a minute or two. And he said, what about we do this? And then he would basically say the same thing she said. And then the sidekick would go, yeah, yeah, that's a great idea. And she would always look at the camera and sort of roll her eyes, like, here we go again. it's it's that type of person, the one who doesn't get credit, who maybe has the great idea and never gets their picture on the wall, never gets the plaque, never gets their name in the paper, all of those sort of things. That's leading sideways. Again, it's leading without ego, without command power. Instead of what's in it for me, it's like, how can I help? It's picking that mission over the spotlight. It's setting the standard by example, not by authority. If you're waiting for a title before you start leading, well, you're never going to get to the point to where someone actually wants you to lead. Stop waiting. The world needs fewer people chasing power and more people lifting up others, lifting up their team, coming up with the good ideas right where they stand. Commanding without ego, leading sideways. So go out there, and if you don't have the authority, if you don't have the leadership role, do it anyway. Be a solid lineman. That's what your team needs. And that's today's Red Mike message. I hope you found it interesting. I hope you find it helpful. I hope you're able to put some of these ideas in place in your life. I appreciate you being here. Ready for a new week. Happy Monday. Thanks for being here. I'll see you next time. And as always, don't forget, life is short. Drink the bourbon.